som ingen her på jorden. Jeg elsker deg, jeg elsker deg, jeg elsker deg i tid og evighet. Jeg elsker deg i tid og
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a conscience exists in the world that extends beyond all boundaries, which is independent of religion, culture, and social adherence. It says that children have a right to childhood, that children should go to school and not be forced to work. They should not start their lives as slaves of others. This world conscience can find no better expression than through Kailash Satyarthi and Malala Yousafzai. So, dear Nobel Peace Laureates, a stronger expression of Alfred Nobel's appeal for fraternity between nations would be difficult to find except through you two. We are honored to have you here. Congratulations. The road to democracy and freedom is paved with knowledge. Taliban and ISIL dislike knowledge because they know that it is an important condition for freedom. Attendance at school, especially by girls, deprives such forces from power. But nothing should be further from Islam than using suicide bombs against their co-religionists or shooting at a young girl whose only demands was to be allowed to go to school. Violence and repression cannot be justified in any religion. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism protect life and cannot be used to take lives. The two whom we honor here today stand very firm on this point. They live according to what Mahatma Gandhi said. There are many purposes I would have died for. There are no purposes I would have killed for. Satyarthi and Yousafzai are precisely the people whom Alfred Nobel in his will calls champions of peace. They are not only behind the desk, but in practice. Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, Kailash Satyarthi's vision is quite simple. to put an end to child labor. Since he abandoned a promising career as an electrical engineer in 1980, this has been Satyarthi's overriding aim. He has worked at several different levels to achieve it. At grassroots level, he has achieved the release of some 80,000 children, sometimes in very dramatic circumstances. He has often been brutally attacked. It takes little fantasy to imagine the reaction when he and his co-workers go into worn-down factory premises in India to set the children free. Powerful interests have profited from child labor, namely. They do not give up without a struggle. Satyarthi himself has adhered to non-violence. The child laborers are not infrequently recruited by kidnapping, but are often also hired out by parents who cannot manage their debts. Enslavement to debt remains very widespread, not only in India, but also in many other countries. Satyarthi insists that it is not poverty that leads to child labor. Child labor maintains poverty, carrying it from generation to generation. School attendance releases people and young people from poverty. Satyarthi has developed a model for how liberated children can be rehabilitated and get education. They must be provided with a basic knowledge to enable them to some extent to function as normal citizens rather than as slaves. He has set up a number of different organizations which work both in India and internationally to fulfill children's rights. Bachpan Bakau Andolan is perhaps the most important instrument, taking direct action to set children free. Satyarthi's struggle is marked by great inventiveness. Rugmark, established in 1994, now Good Weave, is a striking example. It is an international consortium of representatives of countries which export and import rugs. We can all, by simple means, check that the rug has not been made by child laborers. A network of inspectors has been set up to ensure that the system works. The children get to go to school, and the adult workers earn a fair wage. Exporters and importers pay a small fee to keep up the system of inspections and controls. Efforts are in hand to spread the scheme to other products, often made by child labor, such as knitted goods and sports gear. On the 17th of January 1998, Satyarthi embarked on his biggest project, the Global March Against Child Labor. 7 million children and adults took part in this march, which entered many different countries and regions. The march ended up in front of the ILO headquarters in Geneva. The following year, the ILO Convention Against the Worst Forms of Child Labor was unanimously adopted. The convention has currently been ratified by 172 countries. No ILO convention has been ratified more quickly. ILO Conventions 138 and 182 and the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child now form the basis of the worldwide struggle against child labor and for education. Much, nevertheless, remains to be done. There are roughly 60 million child laborers in India alone, most of them in farming. So if the country were to ratify the 2 ILO conventions, that would be a big step in the right direction. There are currently 168 million child laborers worldwide. In the year 2000, the figure was 78 million, higher. In this, as in so many other areas, things are thus moving in the right direction, and often much faster than we think. Satyarthi indeed believes that child labor can be more or less eliminated in his own lifetime. Everyone here shares this hope. Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, Malala Yousafzai is far and away the youngest Peace Prize laureate of all time. Her story had nevertheless become known practically all over the world. When she was 11 or 12, she began under a pseudonym to write a blog for the BBC about what it was like to live in the Swat Valley in northwest Pakistan, under heavy pressure from the Taliban and with only ambivalent support from the Pakistani authorities. The schools periodically had to close, especially girls' schools. Malala Yousafzai's vision was clear right from the start. Girls have a self-evident right to education. Her courage is almost indescribable. We all know what happened on the 9th of October 2012, when she was 15. A gunman climbed into the school bus and asked for Malala. He fired 3 shots at her, injuring her most severely. Her life was saved, and she decided to continue her struggle for girls' education, although Taliban have made no secret of her intention to try again. Pakistan's population numbers nearly 200 million. 1/4 are between 5 and 16 years old. The nation's constitution guarantees all these children free and compulsory education, but nearly half, that 52 million, do not go to school. A large majority of them are girls. And it is not just Taliban that seeks to keep the girls away from school, because schools have been built without walls, without running water, and without toilets. And at least as important, indoctrination is sometimes more important than the skills and knowledge needed in order to cope in a modern world. The teachers, too, often lack the minimum qualification needed. We appreciate very much that Pakistani authorities have praised the award to the Peace Prize to Malala Yousafzai. The best gift they could give her would be dramatic improvements in the country's education system. And that would benefit the whole of Pakistan. And ladies and gentlemen, few things provide a larger economic and social yield than investments in girls' education. And this logic applies all over the world. By placing the individual person at the center of all politics, one will soon see that those who are excluded are not a burden and not a threat to the society. They represent an enormous unused resource. Here in Europe, too, such logic would work wonders. The problem here is not that children and youth receive no education or are obliged to work. Far too many find no use for education or find no opportunities for work. We need to leave this negative situation and instead give the younger generation the hope which is probably the strongest defense against extremism. Young people must be able to see into the future instead of being trapped by dark forces and dark thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, while it is in the nature of extremism to create enemies and frightening images and to divide the world into us and them, the laureates show us something else. A young girl and somewhat older man, one from Pakistan and one from India, one Muslim, the other Hindu, both symbols of what the world needs, namely more unity, fraternity between the nations that Alfred Nobel spoke about. The laureates have underlined that if the prize can contribute to bringing India's and Pakistanis, two people so near to one another and yet so distant, closer to another, this would add an extra dimension to the prize, and we all share this hope. Ladies and gentlemen, we need people like Satyarthi and Yousafzai to show that it helps to fight. Few, if any of us, have had the greater courage to live according to Mahatma Gandhi's principle, who said, "I accept only one tyrant in the world, and that is still the small voice within me." We others have perhaps come too accustomed to following the voices of others pouring into our heads through the social media, or looking to our economic interests or political interests. We often forget to listen to the voice that talks to us about justice. But we should bear in mind, freedom and justice have never been ceremonial. The world never progressed thanks to coldly calculating people. It advanced thanks to the efforts of people with warm hearts and the courage. So, Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, we live, fortunately, in a world, despite all the violence and extremism we see around us, it is marked by an increasing humanity. The author James Baldwin put it like this: "The people who once walked in darkness are no longer prepared to do so." This has become an irrevocable part of our common awareness, and persons like Kailash Satyarthi and Malala Yousafzai has brought us there. They show that it helps to resist, even under the most difficult circumstances. So, dear Nobel Peace Laureates, I cannot explain how much I have struggled to find the right and the best words to say how much the Norwegian Nobel Committee admire you. I will only say this at the end. You will, for all the future, be two new jewels in the history of the Nobel Peace Prize: the row of campaigning and struggling people. People who have created the global conscience of which we can all be bearers. The call for freedom and justice. And the most important thing is to set children and young people free. Thank you for your attention.
सूरज ना थे आसमान जब ना था, सूरज ना थे आसमान जब ना था, राज़े हक भी किसी पर आया जब ना था, राज़े हक भी किसी पर आया जब ना था, तब ना था कुछ यहाँ, तब ना था कुछ यहाँ, हाँ मगर तू ही तू अल्लाहू अल्लाहू अल्लाहू
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, now I call upon Kailash Satyarthi to come forward to receive the gold medal and the diploma. And now I call upon Malala Yousafzai to come forward to receive the gold medal and the diploma. Please come forward. Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, now I call upon Nobel Peace Prize laureate for 2014, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. Please come forward to give your lecture.
दुनिया भर के मेरे प्यारे बच्चों, Your Royal Majesties, Royal Highnesses, my dear daughter Malala, Excellencies, dear brother Tom Harkin, sisters and brothers, मैं शांति और मानवता के इस पवित्र मंच से वेद के एक मंत्र को उच्चारित करते हुए बहुत गौरवान्वित महसूस करता हूँ। इस मंत्र में एक ऐसी प्रार्थना, एक ऐसी कामना और एक ऐसा संकल्प निहित है जो विश्व को मनुष्य जनित त्रासदियों से मुक्ति दिलाने का सामर्थ्य रखती है। संगच्छध्वम संवदध्वम संवो मनांसि जानताम देवा भागम यथा पूर्वे संजानानाम उपासते। हम सभी साथ साथ चलें, आर्थिक तरक्की और विकास के रास्ते में दुनिया के दक्षिणी छोर से उत्तर तक और पूर्वी छोर से पश्चिम तक हम में से कोई भी पीछे ना रह जाए, हम में से कोई भी बिछुड़ ना पाए। हम सभी साथ साथ बोलें, साथ साथ चिंतन करें और साथ मिलकर एक ऐसे ज्ञान का सृजन करें जिससे समस्त विश्व का कल्याण हो सके। आज मैं सबसे पहले अपने स्वर्गवासी माता पिता को, स्वर्ग से भी महान अपनी जन्मभूमि भारत को और समस्त धरती माता को बहुत विनम्रता से नमन करता हूं। मैं उन हजारों बच्चों को स्मरण करता हूं जिनको आज़ाद कराने में मैं स्वयं मुक्त होता रहा हूं। मुक्ति की पहली मुस्कुराहट में मैंने बार बार, हर बार उनके चेहरों पर ईश्वर को मुस्कुराते हुए देखा है। मैं इस सम्मान का सबसे बड़ा श्रेय अपने आंदोलन के शहीद कालू कुमार, धूमदास, आदर्श किशोर और पाकिस्तान के नन्हे शहीद इकबाल मसीह और ऐसे तमाम लोगों को देना चाहता हूं जिन्होंने बच्चों का बचपन लौटाने के लिए हंसते हंसते अपना सर्वोच्च बलिदान कर दिया। मैं आज उन सभी लोगों की तरफ से दुनिया भर में बच्चों को आज़ादी और शिक्षा दिलाने में लगे तमाम कार्यकर्ताओं की तरफ से और मेरे समस्त देशवासी बहनों और भाइयों की ओर से बहुत विनम्रता से आपका यह पुरस्कार स्वीकार करता हूं। भगवान बुद्ध, गुरु नानक और महात्मा गांधी की धरती से नॉर्वे तक की मेरी यह यात्रा विश्व शांति और मानवता के एक छोर को, जो प्राचीन छोर है, दूसरे जो आधुनिक शोर है उसको जोड़ने की यात्रा मैं मानता हूं। फ्रेंड्स, Nobel Committee has generously invited me to present a lecture. Respectfully, I am unable to do that because I am representing here the sound of silence, the cry of innocence, and the face of invisibility. I represent millions of those children who are left behind. And that's why I have kept an empty chair as a reminder. I have come here only to share the voices and dreams of our children, because they are all our children. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. I have held their injured bodies, and I have felt their broken spirits. 20 years ago, in the foothills of the Himalayas, I met a small, skinny child laborer. He asked me, "Is the world so poor that it cannot give me a toy and a book instead of forcing me to take a gun or a tool?" I met a Sudanese child soldier. He was kidnapped by an extremist militia. As his first lesson, he was forced to kill his friends and family. He asked me, "What is my fault?" 12 years ago, a child mother from the streets of Colombia, trafficked, enslaved, raped, asked me this, "I have never had a dream. Can my child have one?" Friends, all the great religions teach us to care for our children. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to them." Holy Quran says, "Kill not your children because of poverty." Friends, there is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. Therefore, I refuse to accept that all the temples and mosques and churches and prayer houses have no place for the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the world is so poor when just 1 week of military expenditure can bring all the children to classrooms. I refuse to accept that all the laws and constitutions and police and judges are unable to protect our children. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be more stronger than the quest for freedom. I refuse to accept here. My only aim in life is that every child is free to be a child, free to grow and develop, free to eat, sleep, and see daylight, free to laugh and cry, free to play and learn, free to go to school, and above all, free to dream. I have the privilege of working with many courageous people who have the same aim. We have never given up against any threat or attack, and we will never. We had made progress in couple of decades. We have reduced the number of out-of-school children by half. We have reduced the number of child laborers by a third. We have reduced child mortality, malnutrition, and we have prevented millions of child deaths. But let us make no mistake. The great challenges still remain. Friends, the biggest challenge or the biggest crisis knocking on the doors of humankind are fear and intolerance. We have utterly failed our children in imparting an education that gives the meaning and objective of life, an education that gives a sense of global citizenship among youth. I'm afraid that the day is not very far when the cumulative result of all this failure will culminate in an unprecedented violence, and that will be suicidal for the humankind. Rights, security, hope can only be restored through education. Young people like Malala, I started calling her my daughter Malala, not just Malala. So my daughter Malala and other daughters, including Kainat, in fact 2 Kainats, and Shazia, and the daughters from Africa and from all over the world. They are rising up and choosing peace over violence, tolerance over extremism, and courage over fear. The solutions are emerging. But these solutions cannot be found in the deliberations in conferences alone, and cannot be found in the prescriptions from a distance. They lie in small groups and local organizations and individuals who are confronting with the problems every day. Even if they remain unacknowledged, unrecognized, and unknown to the world, the solutions are with them. Friends, what is missing now? Of course, my paper is missing. But, yeah, no problem. I will continue without that. We can do it. You may ask that what one person can do. I could recall a story of my childhood. A heavy fire broken out in the forest. Thank you so much. I don't know whether it has happened with some Nobel laureate before or not, but many things are happening today. And the best thing happened that a young, courageous Pakistani girl has met an Indian father, and the Indian father met the Pakistani daughter. So I was telling you the story of my child, what I remember from my childhood. A heavy fire broken out in jungle, in forest. Everybody was running away, including lion, the king of forest. Suddenly he saw a bird rushing straight to the fire. He asked the bird, "What are you doing?" Bird said, "I am going to extinguish the fire." Lion laughed and said, "How can you do it? Keeping just one drop of water in your beak?" But the bird was adamant. She said, "I am doing my bit." "18 years ago, millions of people, individuals, marched across the globe. They demanded a new international law for the abolition of worst forms of child labor, and it has happened. We did it. Millions of individuals together did it. Friends, we live in an age of rapid globalization. We are connected through high-speed internet. We exchange our goods and services in one single global market. Thousands of flights every day, connecting one corner to another corner of the globe. But there is one serious disconnect, and that is the lack of compassion. Let us inculcate and transform the individual's compassion into global compassion. Let us globalize compassion. Mahatma Gandhi said, if we are to teach real peace to the world, we shall have to begin with the children. I humbly add, let us unite the world through the compassion for our children. I ask, whose children are they who stitch footballs, yet never played with one? Whose children are they who harvest cocoa, but have never tasted a chocolate? Whose children are they who are dying of Ebola? Whose children are they who are kidnapped and made hostage today? They are all our children. I remember an 8-year-old girl rescued from intergenerational forced labor, from a stone quarry. When she was sitting with me in my car, right after the rescue, she asked me, "Why did you not come early?" Her angry question still shakes me and has the power to shake the whole world. What are we doing? What are we waiting for? How many girls will we allow to go without rescue? Children are questioning. Children are questioning our inaction and watching our action. We need collective action with the sense of urgency. Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters. Therefore, I challenge the passivity and pessimism surrounding our children. I challenge the culture of silence and a culture of pessimism, the culture of neutrality. I call upon the governments and intergovernmental agencies, businesses, workers, teachers, NGOs, faith leaders, and each one of us to put an end to all forms of violence against children. Slavery, trafficking, child labor, child marriages, child sexual abuse, illiteracy. These things have no place in any civilized society. Friends, we can do this. Governments must make child-friendly policies and invest in education and young people. The businesses must be more responsible, accountable, and innovative, ready to innovative partnerships. Intergovernmental agencies must work together to accelerate action. Global civil society must rise above the businesses as usual and fragmented agendas. Faith leaders, institutions, and all of us must stand with our children. We must be bold, we must be ambitious, and we must have the will. We must keep our promises. Over 50 years ago, on the first day of my school, I met a boy, a cobbler boy, sitting outside the gate of my school. I asked to my teacher, why is he sitting outside? Why is he not with us in the classroom? He had no answer. One day I gathered all my courage and straight went to the father of that cobbler boy. And he said, "Sir, I have never thought about it. We are born to work." His answer made me angry. And it still makes me angry. As a child, I had a vision of tomorrow. A vision that a cobbler boy is sitting with me in my classroom. Now, the tomorrow has become today. I am today. You are today. Today is the time for every child to have the right to life, right to freedom, right to health, right to education, right to safety, right to dignity, right to equality, and right to peace. Today, beyond the darkness, I see the smiling faces of children in blinking stars. Today, in every wave of every ocean, I see my children are playing and dancing. Today, in every plant, in every tree, in every mountain, I see children are growing freely with dignity. Friends, I want to see and feel this today inside you. My dear sisters and brothers, as I said, many interesting things are happening today. But may I request you to put your hand close to your heart close your eyes and feel the child inside you. I am sure you can. Listen to that child. Listen, please. Today, I see thousands of Mahatma Gandhis, Nelson Mandelas, Martin Luther Kings calling on us. Let us democratize knowledge. Let us universalize justice. Together, let us globalize compassion. I call upon you in this room and all across the world. I call for a march from exploitation to education. I call for a march from poverty to shared prosperity, a march from slavery to liberty, and a march from violence to peace. Asato ma sadgamay, tamso ma jyotirgamay, mrityor ma amritam gamay. Let us march from ignorance to awakening. Let us march from darkness to light. Let us march from mortality to divinity. Let us march. Thank you. Thank you.
خورولو ری خوب اسمینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای مور کمر من کو خورولو ری خوب اسمینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای تبی بشیرینای تبی بشیرینای تبی بشیرینای تبی بشیرینای تای پریکړې چې وطن درل گلزار کی دا د جهالت بوتان بټول دارا گزار کی پوهې تای پریکړې چې وطن درل گلزار کی دا د جهالت بوتان بټول دارا گزار کی ته د جون چینای د پتمنا ګلورینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای خوشحالی کا فکر شولے واق دی نور واخس زکت پا نور بار شولے تو خوشحالی کا فکر شولے واق دی نور واخس زکت پا نور بار شولے نور بدی مغولی گگولی لونگی نائی تبی بشیرینائی تبی بشیرینائی تبی بشیرینائی تبی بشیرینائی هم خپل مټی لري عقل او شعور لري د خپل دلیل په مشقت کې خپل غرور لري ته هم خپل مټی لري عقل او شعور لري ته خپل دلیل په مشقت کې خپل غرور لري هر څوک ځوان دی په اذن کې سنگینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای مور کمر من کو خورولو ری خو بس مینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای مور کمر من کو خورولو ری خو بس مینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای علم خوستا حق د پختنا بی بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای تبي بشیرینای
Thank you indeed, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. You proved what I said, referring to Mahatma Gandhi, that the only tyrant of yours is the voice coming from the inside, which is also the case with regard to the second Nobel Peace Prize laureate for 2014, Malala Yousafzai, I call upon you to come forward and give your Nobel lecture.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, dear sisters and brothers, today is a day of great happiness for me. I'm humbled that the Nobel Committee has selected me for this precious award. Thank you to everyone for your continued support and love. Thank you for the letters and cards that I still receive from all around the world. Your kind and encouraging words strengthens and inspires me. I would like to thank my parents for their unconditional love. Thank you to my father for not clipping my wings and for letting me fly. Thank you to my mother for inspiring me to be patient and to always speak the truth, which we strongly believe is the true message of Islam. And also, thank you to all my wonderful teachers who inspired me to believe in myself and be brave. I'm proud, well, in fact, I'm very proud to be the first Pashtun, the first Pakistani, and the youngest person to receive this award. Along with that, I'm pretty certain that I'm also the first recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize who still fights with her younger brothers. I want there to be peace everywhere, but my brothers and I are still working on that. I'm also honored to receive this award together with Kailash Satyarthi, who has been a champion for children's rights for a long time, twice as long, in fact, than I have been alive. I'm proud that we can work together. We can work together and show the world that an Indian and a Pakistani, they can work together and achieve their goals of children's rights. Dear brothers and sisters, I was named after the inspirational Malala of Maiwand, who is the Pashtun Joan of Arc. The word Malala means grief-stricken, sad. But in order to lend some happiness to it, my grandfather would always call me Malala, the happiest girl in the world. And today, I'm very happy that we are together fighting for an important cause. This award is not just for me. It is for those forgotten children who want education. It is for those frightened children who want peace. It is for those voiceless children who want change. I'm here to stand up for their rights, to raise their voice. It is not time to pity them. It is not time to pity them. It is time to take action. So it becomes the last time. The last time. So it becomes the last time that we see a child deprived of education. I have found that people describe me in many different ways. Some people call me the girl who was shot by the Taliban, and some the girl who fought for her rights. Some people call me a Nobel laureate now. However, my brothers still call me that annoying bossy sister. As far as I know, I'm just a committed and even stubborn person who wants to see every child getting quality education, who wants to see women having equal rights, and who wants peace in every corner of the world. Education is one of the blessings of life and one of its necessities. That has been my experience during the 17 years of my life. In my paradise home, Swat, I always loved learning and discovering new things. I remember when my friends and I would decorate our hands with henna on special occasions. And instead of drawing flowers and patterns, we would paint our hands with mathematical formulas and equations. We had a thirst for education. We had a thirst for education because our future was right there in that classroom. We would sit and learn and read together. We loved to wear neat and tidy school uniforms. And we would sit there with big dreams in our eyes. We wanted to make our parents proud and prove that we could also excel in our studies and achieve those goals which some people think only boys can. But things did not remain the same. When I was in Swat, which was a place of tourism and beauty, suddenly changed into a place of terrorism. I was just 10, that more than 400 schools were destroyed. Women were flogged. People were killed. And our beautiful dreams turned into nightmares. Education went from being a right to being a crime. Girls were stopped from going to school. When my world suddenly changed, my priorities changed too. I had two options. One was to remain silent and wait to be killed. And the second was to speak up and then be killed. I chose the second one. I decided to speak up. We could not just stand by and see those injustices of the terrorists, denying our rights, ruthlessly killing people, and misusing the name of Islam. We decided to raise our voice and tell them, have you not learned that in the Holy Quran Allah says, if you kill one person, it is as if you kill the whole humanity? Do you not know that Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet of mercy, he says, do not harm yourself or others. And do you not know that the very first word of the Holy Quran is the word Iqra, which means read? The terrorists tried to stop us and attacked me and my friends who are here today on our school bus in 2012. But neither their ideas nor their bullets could win. We survived. And since that day, our voices have grown louder and louder. I tell my story not because it is unique, but because it is not. It is the story of many girls. Today, I tell their stories too. I have brought with me some of my sisters from Pakistan, from Nigeria, and from Syria who share this story. My brave sisters, Shazia and Kainat, who were also shot that day on our school bus, but they have not stopped learning. And my brave sister, Kainat Somro, who went through severe abuse and extreme violence. Even her brother was killed, but she did not succumb. Also, my sisters here, whom I have met during my Malala Fund campaign. My 16-year-old courageous sister, Mozoon, from Syria, who now lives in Jordan as a refugee. And she goes from tent to tent, encouraging girls and boys to learn. And my sister, Amina, from the north of Nigeria, where Boko Haram threatens and stops girls and even kidnaps girls just for wanting to go to school. Though I appear as one girl, one person who is 5 foot 2 inches tall, if you include my high heels, it means I'm 5 foot only. I am not a lone voice. I'm not a lone voice. I am many. I am Malala, but I'm also Shazia. I'm Kainat. I'm Kainat Somro. I am Mozoon. I am Amina. I am those 66 million girls who are deprived of education. And today, I'm not raising my voice. It is the voice of those 66 million girls. Sometimes people like to ask me, why should girls go to school? Why is it important for them? But I think the more important question is, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they have this right to go to school? Dear brothers and sisters, today, in half of the world, we see rapid progress and development. However, there are many countries where millions still suffer from the very old problems of war, poverty, and injustice. We still see conflicts in which innocent people lose their lives and children become orphans. We see many people becoming refugees in Syria, Gaza, and Iraq. In Afghanistan, we see families being killed in suicide attacks and bomb blasts. Many children in Africa do not have access to education because of poverty. And as I said, we still see girls who have no freedom to go to school in the north of Nigeria. Many children in countries like Pakistan and India, as Kailash Satyarthi mentioned, many children, especially in India and Pakistan, are deprived of their right to education because of social taboos, or they have been forced into child marriage or into child labor. One of my very good school friends, the same age as me, who has always been bold and confident girl, dreamed of becoming a doctor. But her dream remained a dream. At the age of 12, she was forced to get married. And then soon, she had a son. She had a child when she herself was a child, only 14. I know that she could have been a very good doctor, but she couldn't because she was a girl. Her story is why I dedicate the Nobel Peace Prize money to the Malala Fund to help give girls quality education everywhere, anywhere in the world, and to raise their voices. The first place this funding will go to is where my heart is, to build schools in Pakistan, especially in my home of Swat and Shangla. In my own village, there is still no secondary school for girls. And it is my wish and my commitment, and now my challenge, to build one so that my friends and my sisters can go there to school and get quality education. and they get this opportunity to fulfill their dreams. This is where I will begin, but it is not where I will stop. I will continue this fight until I see every child in school. Dear brothers and sisters, great people who brought change, like Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa and Aung San Suu Kyi, once stood here on this stage. I hope the steps that Kailash Satyarthi and I have taken so far and will take on this journey will also bring change, lasting change. My great hope is that this will be the last time. This will be the last time we must fight for education. Let's solve this once and for all. We have already taken many steps. Now it is time to take a leap. It is not time to tell the world leaders to realize how important education is. They already know it. Their own children are in good schools. Now it is time to call them to take action for the rest of the world's children. We ask the world leaders to unite and make education their top priority. 15 years ago, the world leaders decided on a set of global goals, the Millennium Development Goals. In the years that have followed, we have seen some progress. The number of children out of school has been halved, as Kailash Satyarthi said. However, the world focused only on primary education, and progress did not reach everyone. In year 2015, representatives from all around the world will meet in the United Nations to set the next set of goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. This will set the world's ambition for the next generations. The world can no longer accept that basic education is enough. Why do leaders accept that for children in developing countries, only basic literacy is sufficient when their own children do homework in algebra, mathematics, science, and physics? Leaders must seize this opportunity to guarantee a free, quality, primary and secondary education for every child. Some will say this is impractical, or too expensive, or too hard, or maybe even impossible. But it is time the world thinks bigger. Dear sisters and brothers, the so-called world of adults may understand it, but we children don't. Why is it that countries which we call strong are so powerful in creating wars, but are so weak in bringing peace? Why is it? it that giving guns is so easy, but giving books is so hard? Why is it? Why is it that making tanks is so easy, but building schools is so hard? We are living in the modern age, and we believe that nothing is impossible. We have reached the moon 45 years ago, and maybe we'll soon land on Mars. Then, in this 21st century, we must be able to give every child quality education. Dear sisters and brothers, dear fellow children, we must work, not wait. Not just the politicians and the world leaders. We all need to contribute. Me, you, we. It is our duty. Let us become the first generation to decide to be the last. Let us become the first generation that decides to be the last, that sees empty classrooms, lost childhoods, and wasted potentials. Let this be the last time that a girl or a boy spends their childhood in a factory. Let this be the last time that a girl is forced into early child marriage. Let this be the last time that a child loses life in war. Let this be the last time that we see a child out of school. Let this end with us. Let's begin this ending together, today, right here, right now. Let's begin this ending now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
då gudamänniskan till jorden steg ned. För att försona världens brott och synder, för oss han dödens smärta led. Och hoppets stråle går igenom världen, och ljuset skimrar över land och hav. Folk fall nu neder och hälsa glatt din frihet och härliga natt. Du frälsning åt oss gav. Och härliga natt, du frälsning åt oss gav. Ty frälsan krossat våra tunga bojor, vår jord är fri, himlen öppen nu är. Ut i din slav, du ser en älskad broder, och se din ovän blir dig så kär. Från himlen brakte frälsaren oss friden, för oss han nedsteg i sin stilla grav. Folk fall nu neder och hälsa glatt din frihet och härliga natt. Du frälsning åt oss gav. Och härliga natt, du frälsning åt oss gav.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for a wonderful speech.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Ja, som det är.
Same procedure.